Throughout history, the men and women who lead us with new concepts, new ideas, help us all to move forward in thought toward brighter tomorrows. And now, Meetings with Remarkable People with your host, Jesse Sterling.
Hi, I'm Jesse Sterling, and welcome to a very special Meetings with Remarkable People here in St. John's, Newfoundland, and getting to meet with a man, a legend, who many consider the father of modern motivation, the incomparable, legendary Dr. Wayne Dyer. So welcome to St. John's, Newfoundland, Dr. Dyer. Thank you for coming.
It's great to be here.
What are your impressions of the far east of the Western world, as we call it?
Is that what you call it? I love that. Well, as I say, it's newfound land for me. I didn't realize how far out this is and how close it is to Ireland.
Yeah, we're out there in the Atlantic.
And I live in the middle of the Pacific. I grew up in Michigan, and all the time that I've been here, the last 3 days, I've just been having reminiscences of what that was like to see these incredible blossoms everywhere. I have this wonderful quote from Vivekananda that he used when they used to ask him, this great teacher from the Far East, how do we get to this spiritual place that you're always telling us? And he gave this quote. He said, in the springtime, observe the blossoms on the fruit trees. The blossoms vanish of themselves as the fruit grows. And so too will the lower self, the false self, vanish as the divine grows within you. And this is a divine place. And I've been just seeing nothing but blossoms. Every time we go by a street, there's just big, beautiful purple lilacs, and then an orange, and then a red one, and then green. It's just, and the greenness of it all, it takes me back to, I lived in an orphanage out in Mount Clemens when I was growing up. And it kind of reminds me of that. Even the way the homes are built and all of that, being back here in sort of like Midwestern architecture. It's wonderful. The people have been just stupendous. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience.
Really friendly people, huh? Really warm people,
right.
Newfoundlanders.
Yes, they certainly are. Yeah. But you know what? I find that everywhere. I honestly feel that all of us, we all come from the same place. We think that we're different because we live in a certain place, or because our color of our skin is a little different, or we're a little taller or a little shorter. But basically, all of this is just an illusion, this physical thing that we're in, even this physical world that we're in. My teacher used to say to us, the only thing that's real is that which never changes. Mm-hmm. The things that are constantly changing aren't real, because the moment you get a hold of it, it's something else. And I think if you come back to Newfoundland 20 years from now, you'll see a lot of changes. Things are constantly in motion. But there's something eternal that infuses everything, and it's in every single one of us. It's in all of us, and that's what I pay attention to. Whether I'm in Cambodia, or whether I'm in South Africa, or any place in the world, I just see the unfolding of God in everything and everyone.
You talked about this wonderful journey of transformation, an inner journey that a human being can take from lower consciousness to higher consciousness, and placing the attention from the material stuff, five senses of reality,
right.
That's what's changing, to the unchanging. How do we do that? How do we place our focus on that which is unchanging?
Well, one of the things I noticed, that you gave a little talk at the presentation I made, and you talked about meditation, and gave a very, very beautiful presentation, by the way. I enjoyed it. And I think that's the very first place you have to go to. You have to go to that place within that you can't cut in half. That, if you take silence and try to cut it in half, it's like zero in mathematics. No matter how many times you cut it in half, you still have just zero. And it's the same with silence. And so, Melville, the great novelist, said that God's one and only voice is silence. And Pascal said that, all of man's troubles stem from his inability to sit quietly in a room alone. If you can get quiet and just pay attention to what's in there, and then let go of that, and learn how to get quiet without falling asleep, that's one of the first steps. The other is to just, one of the things that I learned in studying the I Am discourses is that you can never know the way to higher consciousness as long as you have judgment, criticism, or condemnation towards any of God's creations. So it's getting rid of the judgment. You look at all of these beautiful flowers out here, and then you see a whole string, and someone said to me, well, that's just a whole field of weeds. And I said, the only difference between a flower and a weed is a judgment. It's just a judgment. And if you can get past judgment and just, the Beatles had it right. It's just let it be, just let it be, and just allow and be in a state of gratitude. I just went for a swim at your Y over here and came back and got into the shower, and it was a nice warm shower running over, washing, and I constantly remind myself to stay in a state of gratitude just for the shower, and it was all misty and kind of cool out there, and just to appreciate the mist. And when you're in the swimming pool, to just appreciate your body being able to move through the water, and to stay in that state of gratitude and appreciation for everything, whoever you encounter, even the things that you think shouldn't be coming your way. They're oftentimes the greatest gifts that you've ever had. It's like, I haven't had alcohol in my body for close to 30 years now. And those years of drinking and those years of being out of control and the painful things that we had back in our early life, my years in an orphanage and so on, those are the greatest teachers that have ever come my way. My father walked out on us, abandoned us, didn't have anything to do with any of us. And it turns out he was one of the greatest teachers that ever came into my life. I don't even know that in this universe that he incarnated into this world to do one thing, and that is to behave like a jerk, towards all of it, so that I could get to a state in my life where I could end up at his grave, and rather than being full of rage, forgiveness. And forgiveness is like, Mark Twain often said that forgiveness is the fragrance that the violet sheds on the heel that has crushed it. To be able to send love. That's the message of all of the great spiritual masters. That's what Jesus' message was. Just be an instrument of love. Just send love wherever you go. And when you have that kind of divine love within you, everything in your world just seems to change. And things start to work for you because you're aligned finally with the source from which we all originated, which is God.
All things are possible, right? So what does that leave out? What does all things are possible leave out? Absolutely nothing, right? So all things are possible. And when you begin to adopt this kind of awareness and this kind of understanding that all things are possible and whatever is necessary for you to fulfill your dharma and your journey, as long as you stay connected to this, which is what God is, isn't it? God is love. It's not me, I didn't say it. It's right out of the New Testament. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in me, and I in him. And when enough of us get it, when enough of us align with that kind of awareness, we will begin to make the kinds of shifts that will bring this planet to a whole new level of awareness and consciousness. We will get rid of the wars. We will get rid of the hatred, the divisions, even the catastrophes, the things that just happened in Calgary just the day before yesterday. Perhaps your prime minister might get this, that there is something called global warming. And when we recognize that everything is in balance in the universe, and it all comes from consciousness, and consciousness is located in all of us. And when we are out of balance, we project that kind of energy outward.
Time for a break. More with Dr. Wayne Dyer right after this. Welcome back to Meetings with Remarkable People. I'm Jesse Sterling, and we are in conversation with Dr. Wayne Dyer. And a big part of aligning with the source is being in the now, isn't it? Is being in this present moment. You talked about taking a shower,
right? Just
appreciating that. How do we get in the now?
Well, there's nowhere else to be. That's all there is. And it's just the question isn't whether how you get into the now. The question is how are you using the now? If you're in the now and you're thinking about all the things that shouldn't have happened and how sad you are and how guilty you feel because of all the stuff that's back here in your past, then you're using up your now to be filled with things that are going to immobilize you and keep you from enjoying the now. And if your now is consumed with everything that's going to happen, with the future and all the stuff and whether it's going to work out or whether the fact is that will work out also in the now. So that the now is the only thing that you've ever experienced in your life. Everything you've ever done in your entire life didn't happen in the past. It happened in the now, in the present moment. And everything that you're going to ever experience in your life isn't going to happen in the future. It's going to happen in the now. And at a higher state of consciousness, you'll find that you live completely and fully in embracing the now. And so the question isn't, as I say, it's like how I get there and do I appreciate it. The question is, I'm in the now right now, how do I use it? And if you stay in just a state of gratitude and appreciation and joy and have only love to give away, then that's what your life will be.
That attitude of gratitude, I love it. And I've learned that if you're feeling anxiousness, probably living in the future,
right.
the future that might not occur. If you're feeling regret or guilt, you're living in the past.
Right.
It's when you're in the present moment that true joy and that true purpose can unfold.
Absolutely. But the thing of it is, we even say it, the way we say it is interesting, that you're living in the past. But the fact is, there is no living in the past, because the past is an illusion. And the past is just it's just a thought that you're having about things that transpired back here, but they didn't happen back here. They happened in the now. And there's really two kinds of time. I talked about it in my presentation. One of them is this, what I call horizontal chronological time, which is cause and effect time. I did this, and then this, and this, and this, and this. And then there's another kind of time. And this is what is called eternal time. And this is when you have a recognition that everything that is happening to you is already taken care of. So that in every moment of your life, you're having this, you have to deal with this paradox, this incredible paradox, which is that I'm in control, I'm making choices, and also all these choices are all being made for me. Because I look back at all of the things that I can see in cause and effect in this chronological time, and the fact is that as I look back on them, I realize that they were all preparing me for this moment, for this moment. The years in an orphanage, the separations, the addictions, all of these were all just great teachers that were a part of my life. So this kind of time, this eternal time, is a time that's a vertical line and it goes up. And where it crosses here, with that point, where vertical time and horizontal time cross, this is when you have this alarming awareness. You know, Carl Jung put it this way, he said, at the same moment that you're a protagonist in your own life and you're making choices, at that very same moment, he said, you're also a spear carrier or an extra in a much larger drama. And you are all, he said, doomed to make choices. So all these choices that you're making within yourself, sometimes you have this realization that I'm not in charge of any of this. Just like you're not in charge of what's happening to your body. You know, in the Tao Te Ching, they speak that, you know, Lao Tzu says that you're not doing anything. You're just being done. And you know this about your physical body. You look at it, you know, I look at a picture of myself when I was 20 years old, and I look at myself now, and there's not one cell left of that body, but who I am is still here. So the I that is inside of this body and that is inside of all of these things, that's really your essence, and that's infinite. And the reason that it's infinite is because you can't get a hold of it. It has no form. And if it has no form, that means it has no beginning, because there's no form to it. And if it has no beginning, it also has no end. So the soul, the interior part of who we are, that part of us is just saying, I just want to keep expanding. I always sing the theme song to the soul. Here's the theme song to the soul. Oh, give me land, lots of land, and the starry skies above. Do you know the rest? Don't fence me in, let me ride through the wide open spaces that I love. Don't fence me in. And that's what, you know, when your kids look at you and say, you're not the boss of me, you can't tell me what to do, I'm not going to do what you do. That isn't a bratty little kid, that's their soul saying, don't put a fence around me, don't put me in a box. I'm infinite. The infinite part of me doesn't want to be stopped anywhere. It can't be stopped because there's no form to it. It just wants to grow. It just wants to expand. And that's what our interiority wants, to expand and to grow.
The essence of our divine nature is freedom, isn't it?
Absolutely.
We crave freedom
that's a good word
and love
for it.
beyond
Right.
everything else.
Absolutely, yeah.
How do people find out more about your teachings? You've authored over 40 books in your career. You've touched so many people. How do people continue their studies?
Well, it's now with the world that we're in now, this technological world, I mean, all they got to do is just go into something called Google, which is an interesting word. I guess it's the word that means infinite. It means, you know, as big a number as it possibly can be. And just put in my name and you'll find everything that's in there. There's 41 books and films and It's all out there. But you know, people aren't going to get it from me. You know, in the Course in Miracles, they talk about that all you have to do is try to inspire somebody else to have a willingness to want to change. And then whatever it is that you need will be there. The teachers will show up, the books will be there. There's teachers everywhere, and there's an old Buddhist proverb that says, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You don't have to look for your teachers. You just have to go for your readiness. You just have to be willing. And as soon as you're willing, it'll all show up. Everything will show up exactly on time, the way it's supposed to. And you can get your ego out of the process and say, I'm just being done, and I'm just going to be done in the way that God wanted me to be done, rather than taking on this thing we call an ego, which is really an acronym for edging God out. You know, we edge God out of our lives, and we say, we'll take over. I'm in charge of this. I'll do everything. But the fact is, you're in charge of nothing. The only free will that you have is the decision whether you're going to stay aligned with God or aligned with something other than that.
So now try to imagine a love that has no opposite. This is what you will experience the moment that you enter the kingdom. The moment that you shed this tattered coat on a stick called your body and all of its possessions. You will enter oneness where there are no opposites. And when you do, and those who have had these kind of experiences, it's a bliss and a sensation that is that words just don't work. And the reason words don't work, when I did my year of living the Tao, when I wrote Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life in 2005, when I turned 65, and live the Tao Te Ching, this whole idea of oneness became clear to me. The opening line of the Tao Te Ching is, the Tao that can be named is not the Tao. Tao, T-A-O, it means God, basically, or the divine mind, or the great way. T-E, Tao Te Ching. T-E means the virtue of, Ching means book in ancient Chinese. The virtue of living the great way. And the reason the Tao that can be named is not the Tao is because it's two-ness. Get this. It's the thing you're trying to describe and the name that you give to it. You've got two things here. You got the symbol and you got the thing. You got to get rid of the symbol and just be it.
Time for another break on Meetings with Remarkable People. More with Dr. Wayne Dyer right after this. Welcome back to Meetings with Remarkable People. I'm Jesse Sterling, and we are in conversation with Dr. Wayne Dyer. How do people find out more about your teachings? You've authored over 40 books in your career. You've touched so many people. How do people continue their studies?
Well, it's now with the world that we're in now, this technological world, I mean, all they got to do is just go into something called Google, which is an interesting word. I guess it's the word that means infinite. It means, you know, as big a number as it possibly can be. And just put in my name and you'll find everything that's in there. There's 41 books and films, and it's all out there. But you know, people aren't going to get it from me. You know, in the Course in Miracles, they talk about that all you have to do is try to inspire somebody else to have a willingness to want to change. And then whatever it is that you need will be there. The teachers will show up, the books will be there. There's teachers everywhere, and there's an old Buddhist proverb that says, you know, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. You don't have to look for your teachers. You just have to go for your readiness. You just have to be willing. And as soon as you're willing, it'll all show up. Everything will show up exactly on time, the way it's supposed to. And you can get your ego out of the process and say, I'm just being done, and I'm just going to be done in the way that God wanted me to be done, rather than taking on this thing we call an ego, which is really an acronym for edging God out. You know, we edge God out of our lives, and we say, we'll take over. I'm in charge of this. I'll do everything. But the fact is, you're in charge of nothing. The only free will that you have is the decision whether you're going to stay aligned with God or aligned with something other than that.
And the only difference between God and good is one little zero.
That's it. That's all there is. Muktananda, when people would walk into his ashram, he would always ask them the question, do you know the difference between God and good? And if they said no, he would just go like this. You know, there is no difference. What makes you feel good? If you called my cell phone, and got my cell phone message, it would say, "This is Wayne Dyer that you've reached, and I want to feel good." And if your message is designed to do anything other than that, you got the wrong number. You want to call Dr. Phil or somebody who wants to deal with that. It's just about feeling good. Yeah.
Well, we're almost out of time here. Final thoughts for our viewers. You're such a master of synthesizing information from all different walks of life, religious traditions. What's the takeaway at the end of the day?
The takeaway is from Pierre Teilhard of Chardin. He was a Catholic priest who was excommunicated from his church back in 1917 or 1918 because of his outrageous ideas about God as something that's within us, not something outside of us. And he said something very powerful. I've used it many times. He said, all of us are here. We're not human beings here having a spiritual experience. It's the other way around. That all of us are infinite spiritual beings having a temporary human experience. And just recognize that when you change the way you look at things, you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's a quantum truth. The observer changes what they observe. If you don't like the way your world is going and the way people are and so on, don't look at them changing. Change the way you look at them. See the unfolding of God in everything and everyone you encounter, and just send them love. That's the takeaway.
And putting your attention on that which is unchanging, pure,
Absolutely.
free forever.
Right, absolutely.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Final goodbye to Newfoundlanders and Labradorians watching this.
We'll be back. I love it here. Be grateful. You're in God's country. This is so beautiful here. You're very, very lucky people.